like if you would, go back and start up again tomorrow? What would it look like? What would you do? What are some lessons that you've learned? Maybe two or three things. Here's the three steps I would do tomorrow if I was going to start a business. So just, I think this is really apropos for our listeners on, because many of them, they're probably thinking through this in their minds anyway, about what does it look like to take that leap, so to speak. So walk us through that a little bit. So what would you do, and what would it look like?
So if I was starting again, the first thing I'd want to make sure is my personal finance situation. So I want to have runway. So I want to have savings. So if I don't have savings, then I'd consider staying in my job for a bit longer, and maybe working another year to build up a bank balance. I'd then also be looking at how can I cut my personal expenses, living costs, or talk with my partner about what we can do there. Because when you're growing a business, you don't want to have huge costs and have to pay yourself a big wage in the early days. Really, you want to be focused on growing your business. So first of all, I'd make sure my personal finances are sorted out and that I've got some runway there so that I don't have too much pressure. Then I'd be following the 7-day startup method or something like that. So how can I get to market really quickly? And the approach that I think is important with entrepreneurship, which comes from Rob Walling's stair-step method, is you don't have to go for the most difficult business model in your first business. So entrepreneurship is like a career. So you might want to build a tech startup.
I love that.
It doesn't have to be your first business. It's going to take time to build the skill set as an entrepreneur. In the same way, for me, it took me 10 years to really build my skills as an accountant. I'd pick an easier business model, and that will depend on your skill set and your industry knowledge, your network, as to what an easier business model is. But something like building software is probably not the easiest business model compared to something like services originally. And so for me, my first business was consulting. That was really easy to get started, low barriers to entry. And there's a lot of skills you need to learn around sales, proposal writing, dealing with customers, client experience. Maybe you're building an audience. So I'd do that in a lower pressure environment where you're still getting paid, whether that's consulting or some other service business, and then gradually ramp up from there. So for me, Bean Ninjas is a productized service business model. So I went from being involved in service delivery to building a team to run a service business for me and build an asset. And then now we're building digital products, which are much more scalable than service. But I didn't jump into that, and I probably couldn't have afforded to do that, and I wouldn't have had the knowledge that I do about our market and their problems, what problems need to be solved 4 years ago. So I've been paid through the service business to understand that market, build an audience, refine our marketing message. So now we're building products. So if I was to recap on that, number one is sort out the personal finance situation. Two is just get started and launch and follow something like the 7-day startup method where you're getting a customer in your first week. And then 3 is thinking about entrepreneurship as a career and picking an easier business model to build your skills so you can stay in the industry for 10 or 20 years, not pick a hard business model that's going to fail in year 1 and then you have to go back and get a job.
I've been doing this podcast for 2 years. Every week we've launched a new episode, and I think this is the first time that then a guest has actually talked about choosing a kind of a low barrier to entry business it eases the transition to that business. It lowers the likelihood of you failing, early. I mean, I really love that philosophy, and with the idea that it's not a static point on a line. It's really a dynamic movie in essence that, you're kind of this whole idea of entrepreneurship as a career.